firefighters were trapped. So the emotion changes a bit, but these are extremely professional people. These are very heroic people. They will do everything they can to try and get in and rescue anybody that could potentially be alive in that building, recognizing that there is a potential for additional collapse.
What about the prospect, as the governor's announced, of the National Guard being called into New York for an act of terrorism? Is this anything you ever envisioned, and what will they do?
Well, in fact, that's the question, John, what they'll do. I would imagine that they will help support the police department, the fire department, provide logistical support, manpower, help with search and rescue. Whether or not they'll be used for law enforcement purposes, traffic control, things like that, I think I've not been privy to those discussions, so I don't know. But that's certainly possible.
Leading up to the millennium, you personally designed a series of exercises where a disaster would unfold and they would respond to it, a tabletop exercise, a field exercise, and then another disaster, and then another, to make it more and more difficult to stretch the resources to the limit. Was that worst-case scenario design that you put together to see if the city could handle such a momentous disaster anything close to this, or have a component like this?
Yeah, you know, as we were planning for the millennium, we were planning for millions of people in Times Square and for the potential of something happening there. And we had to look at where all those resources would come from.
So did you have, in your design, did you have a truck bomb go off and then something else and then something else happen?
We had a sequence of events, both explosions, chemicals, biological incidents, and we looked at various types of terrorist events. And, you know, I think that what you're seeing here today is the result of having the New York City Fire Department, New York City Police Department well prepared, but again, I don't care where you are, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. An incident like this is difficult and certainly stresses any system anywhere in the world. And then when you have a number of injuries to police and firefighters, it really does change the dynamics.
Did you ever imagine in your various scenarios that a building, not to mention two separate buildings basically in case of the trade towers, would collapse on one another?
We did plan for building collapse, for bombings, and that was part of our routine planning.
Is there some hint there of what the operation now faces in terms of what you went through?
Well, what happens from here on out is a very slow process because first of all, you've got to put the fire out, and my understanding is there's gas lines feeding the fire, and it is not out. So before you can really start doing a search and rescue in the middle of the building or even recovering those victims, you've got to get that fire out.
Yeah. The mayor did just say a moment ago the gas has been turned off in city buildings. That would seem to be to have alleviated one very pressing problem for much of the morning.
Yes, but we still see that it's burning. We see that it continues to burn, and you can do some search and rescue around the periphery of what's burning, but to actually get into the area that's burning, this is going to be a long-term process.
John?
Now, you mentioned something about continuity of government contingency plans. What are we seeing in New York and in Washington where the officials are not, where we're accustomed to seeing them, not in the White House, not operating out of City Hall? Have they gone to ground?
You have to in a situation like this, when you view that the country has been attacked. You have to have alternative sites for the mayor, for the governor to operate from, to continue government.
On the assumption that their regular sites are potential targets?
Oh, sure. You have to do that. And I would imagine that's what's happening in Washington as well. There are very sophisticated continuity of government plans in Washington. They have evacuated most of the government office buildings. And I would imagine things are locked down pretty tight, and key officials have been moved to key locations, to secure locations to ensure that there is a continuity of government.
Jerry Howard, thank you for the moment. Don't go away if you feel inclined to stay and help. We're very grateful.
Yeah,
the man who set up these headquarters office down on the west side, which are not now usable in terms of the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management, and management is the big issue. But as you listen to you two guys talk there for a second, you realize how this ripples out. Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister, has just now ordered, actually a short while ago, has just ordered all civilian flights to cease over London. And so the impact of this one event, not only across the United States, but now being felt overseas, is constantly alive.